Good day and welcome to today's lesson. In today's lesson, we are going to be learning how to create HTML elements via JavaScript. But before we go into all that, let me just quickly give a quick illustration of something. Don't worry if you do not understand what I'm going to illustrate now. You're going to understand it in future as you move along, but I just want you to have an idea of the concept. So let me go ahead and just clear my whole browser and my whole code here and write something very simple. I just want to use it to illustrate what I'm about to tell you. So this is what I'm trying to explain to you. It's a concept in JavaScript DOM, and like I said, I just want you to be aware of this concept. You may not totally understand from what I'm going to say now, but I just want you to be aware of it. You will definitely understand as you use DOM more and more, and as you learn deeper and deeper. So now, looking at this simple code here, you'll find out that the very first element here is my HTML element here. And unlike other elements like my head tag or my body tag, for example, this my head tag here is inside my HTML tag. This title tag here is inside the head tag, which in turn is inside the HTML tag. But the HTML tag itself is not inside any tag. And so the HTML tag is called the parent node or the root. Now let's take it a step further. When you look at this code, you'll find out that inside our parent node or our root, which is our HTML tag, because itself it is not inside any other tag, so it is called the parent node. The very first element inside it is this head tag. This head tag here is the very first element inside, is the very first element inside our HTML tag. And so this head tag is called the first child, right? Now, for this head tag itself has its own first child, which is this title tag here. Now, inside this HTML tag, the last element is this body tag, and so this body tag here is called the last child. Inside this body tag we have two tags, this h1 tag here and this p tag here. So now, with reference to this body tag, this h1 tag is the first child and this p tag is the last child or the second child. So I just want you to understand that concept and be aware of it, because you see it used as you go deeper and deeper into HTML DOM. So let's get back to our original lesson, creating element. So now we are going to be looking at how to create HTML elements. The very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clean all this, but I'll leave my button so that we can still use the button. I'm going to go ahead and put my button outside of my div. and then I'll give my div an ID. I'll call it div1. And inside this div1, I'll create 2 paragraphs as we did before. Give this one an ID of p1. And then I'll create a second paragraph. And give that one an ID of p2. Save that. Let's see how it looks. Okay, so this is it. Remember, so this is it. I'm going to come here. Now we are still going to be using this button. Remember, this is the name of our function. You can name it anything, but the name here should correspond with the name of your function. The first thing I want to do now is that I want to create an element. And so to do that, I'm going to go ahead and create my element and store it inside a variable, a constant variable. So I'll write const. I want to create a p tag element. You can name your variable anything. P tag equals to document dot create element. And what is the element I want to create? I want to create a p tag. P. If I wanted to create an anchor tag, I'll put a. If I wanted to create a list, for example, I'll put li. If I wanted to create an unordered list, I'll put ul. So that's how it is. So I want to create a paragraph tag, so I put p. Now, theoretically speaking, I have created my paragraph tag. But what is going to be the content of my paragraph tag? For example, here you can see this is the first paragraph. This is the content of my paragraph tag with an ID of p1. So let me go ahead and create the content. I'll write const again, and then I'll just give it a variable name of node equals to document dot text node. Let me create first. Create text node. Then I can give it, let me say this is a new paragraph. Now I have created my elements on this line, and I have also created the content of my element, or the child of my element, on this line. And so the next thing I want to do is that I want to join them together. So I'm going to go ahead and say p tag, which is the variable where I stored my element, p tag dot append. It simply means join after or join below. Append child. That means I'm making this content here, this is a new paragraph, to be a child of my p tag. Please take note, when I was giving you the illustration, even the text is considered a child of the element. So I'm going to append this text to this element here as the child, and then I'll say inside this append child I'll put this one here. So what I'm doing basically here is that, first of all, I created a p tag element and I stored it inside a variable called p tag. Then I created a content, right, what is going to be inside the p tag, and I stored it inside a variable called node. I used create text node to create content and create element to create element. Then I went ahead to join the content to the element on this line here. So I say p tag append child node. So now I have already created my element, I have created the content of the element, and I have joined them together here. Now I want to join the whole everything I have created and join it to one of the tags here so that it will show after that tag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and then const element, creating a variable called element. I want to store the tag I want to join this element I just created to. So const element equal to document dot get element by id, and I want to join it to this div here, so I'll put div1. Right, so finally all I've done is that I've gotten this div element here and I stored it in a variable, right, called element. So finally on this line I'm going to do the actual joining. I'll say element dot append child again, but this time I am appending the whole p tag I just created. And I save that. So once again, let me go over this code one more time. What I did here was that I want to create an element and I want it to show on my browser. So first of all, I created the element here using this line of code, and then I stored the element in a variable called p underscore tag. Then I created the content, what will be the content of that element here, using this createText node method, and I put the content inside here and I stored it inside a tag inside a variable called node. And then I took that content and I appended it to the element I just created here. I appended it as the child of that element. Then I am now coming here to get an element that is already in my HTML DOM, which is this div here. I see I'm getting the element by id div1, and then I store that element inside a variable called element, right? And then I am now appending the whole element with its child here that I created, and I am in turn appending it to that element I just got, which is the div, as the child of that element. So I'm going to go ahead and save that, open my browser, I refresh and I click here, and as you can see, this is a new paragraph it has added. I can keep clicking to keep adding the same thing. You can choose to make it dynamic as we go further, but basically this is how we can create elements via JavaScript. Now what if we want to remove an element, right? Then this is what we'll do. Let me go ahead and just clean this, and I can say document dot get element by id, and let's say the element I want to remove is this p1, this p1 paragraph here. Then I'll store it inside a variable here, call it child, because it is the child of this but you can call your variable any name. Then I'll go ahead and say child dot parent node dot remove child dot remove child, and then the exact child I want to remove here. Now ideally what you can do is to store the parent node inside a variable and then just go ahead and say parent node dot remove child and put the child here. But sometimes you may not know the exact tag that is coming before the tag you want to remove. So this is a quicker way to just go ahead and just dynamically get the parent node and remove the child. Save that. Come here, refresh, and I click, and as you can see, that paragraph has disappeared. So basically, that is how you remove a child.